a little more electronically oriented. So something really cool that I've found recently is liquid tape. Now you might think that this is kind of odd, but basically it's like a tape that you paint on. I'm guessing it's some sort of latex or vinyl or something. And this is great for when you have jobs that, you know, tape just, it's not going to hold up. Like if you're soldering something like two wires together and you're going to put tape on it, that gets really kind of gross after a while and starts to come undone. But with liquid tape, you just coat it on and then it just stays there. It's like it's part of the cord. I actually use this to repair a pair of headphones that I have. And I really like these headphones, but shortly after I got them, I stepped on the cord and it came loose a little bit. Now the wires inside are perfectly fine, but the cord came undone, so you can see the bare copper. So what I did is I took some of this liquid tape and I, went right over it, and it dried, and now it's as good as new. It's a different color, of course, but it looks pretty good. It comes in a bunch of colors: red, black, green, white. So you can get a color that you want. Now something else that it's interesting is wire glue. Now, if you can't find the soldering iron, or you just don't want to have to deal with the soldering iron, you can get wire glue, which is just as it sounds. It glues wires together, and it's conductive. So you just take wires as if you're going to solder them, and you put on a coat of wire glue. From what I've heard, you have to be pretty thick about it, but it's pretty cool. The liquid tape and the wire glue, they're both $5 each, so you can take a gamble on those. It's pretty, you'll definitely get some use out of them. Now we also have, here's a digital video stabilizer. Now if you're anything like me, you usually try to get some of, if you have old movies that aren't on DVD, or if you even have family movies, you want to convert them over to digital before the tapes eventually wear out. So this is a digital video stabilizer. You can see the back here has RCA input outputs as well as a power source. I definitely recommend, you can get one with a connector for an AC adapter, or one that you just open it up and you plug in a 9-volt. This one you can use either a battery or an AC adapter, and I recommend that you get one with that. And these are pretty good for, they stabilize your tapes as well as remove any sort of copy protection. Now you might be asking, well, if I have like a home movie or something, why would I need to get rid of copy protection? Well, the interesting thing about it is that like your input video cards are required by law to have some sort of, copy prevention recognition software, I guess you could call it. So when you put in your old family tapes and they might be really shaky, the computer thinks that they're copy protected. So, that's kind of crazy. I mean, you can't even copy your own tapes, but using this little gizmo, you can strip all copy protection as well as stabilize the image so it comes in nice and crisp. These go for about, the lowest I've seen them is $25 on eBay. You can also get them from a couple of online electronics stores. And I'd say that they're definitely worth the money. They can be a little flaky at sometimes, but they always seem to come around. And they're a pretty good investment if you're ever trying to convert over any sort of old video. Now, from my previous episode, you might recognize the Stylophone. Now, the Stylophone's really cool if you have any sort of music fan or someone who likes synthesizers. And I mean, it's also just a really cool little device to carry around if you're bored. Maybe you have like 20 minutes before you have to go somewhere. You just bring out the Stylophone and you start doing crazy things with it. It costs about $20. You can get this on ThinkGeek. And I'd say it's definitely a nifty little gizmo. I've definitely got my money's worth out of it. You can use the inputs and the outputs. You can bring in your MP3 player. You can output it to your headphones or your computer. Or just, you can figure out your own uses for it. It's really cool. So, that's the end of the review segment. I hope that I've helped you find something cool that you might be able to get someone for the holidays. So now I'm going to take you quick up to the next segment, which is the Commodore 1702. I hope you like it. Now you probably wouldn't know this, but when I'm recording using one camera or I'm using two cameras, I like to output all the video to separate monitors. Now you might ask why I do this. Well, when you consider your normal digital video camera, it has a very small screen. It's something like 3 or 4 inches. And if you have a camera like this, you don't even have a screen. All you have to do is you have to look through this and, maybe you'll get the shot lined up right. By having separate monitors, I can output each video camera to one of the monitors, and that way I can see what I'm doing on nice big screens, and if I have to, I can easily make adjustments. Now the type of monitors that I use are the Commodore 1702. Now you might ask, why are there Commodore monitors? Well, if you think back, when you had the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20, you'd hook those up to the TV. But then after a while, your parents were probably like, well, he's using the TV all the time for the computer, I can't watch anything. Why don't we get him like some sort of separate TV or something to, for him to do all his computing on? Well, that's where the 1702 came in. The 1702 came out in the 1980s, and it quickly established itself as a very good monitor. It had a number of knobs on the front. For example, you have tint, color, contrast, brightness, as well as horizontal position, vertical hold, and volume. Now if you look in the front, you can see that there's two RCA jacks here. You have video and you have mono audio. Now around back you can see that you have a couple more inputs. You have your audio as well as your Commodore video, which consists of chroma and luma. I'll talk more about those in a bit. You also have a signal select switch that you can choose between the front inputs and the rear inputs. Now you might notice that the front of the second monitor seems a little doctored. It's actually a funny story how that all happened. I used to keep this monitor in my bedroom along with my 12-inch normal TV, so that when friends came over they had their own designated place that they could hook up and play video games. Now one day what happened was that the monitor actually fell down face forward with the cable still in it, which crushed them. And for some reason, like the internal PCB just snapped off. So what I had to do is I had to open up the monitor and solder directly onto the board in there, and then I had some Cat 5 sticking out. Now after that I went to Radio Shack and I got a couple of these. Now this simply unscrews, and it is an RCA female adapter. So you can just take that and solder that directly in, and then I now have control over my audio and video again. So now I'm coming to the back again. I'm going to show you a little demonstration of how to use these monitors using the best possible video quality through chroma and luma. Now you might be asking, what uses chroma and luma these days? I mean, everything has like RGB or HDMI, some things still have composite, but what could possibly use chroma and luma? Now the answer to that might surprise you. Actually, you can use S-Video. Maybe you remember S-Video, little 4-pin adapter. Now what's interesting about that is that those 4 pins, 2 of them are chroma and luma, and the other 2 are ground. So what you can easily do is you can take an S-Video cable, cut it in half, take 2 RCA cables and cut them in half, and then solder them together so that you have S-Video on one side and your RCA cables on the other. So now, if you're still lucky, you might have a device that actually has S-Video out. This might include some, higher quality VCRs, some older DVD players, as well as laserdisc players. Maybe your computer might have an S-Video out on an old video card, or maybe your laptop will have S-Video out. So now I'm going to show you what happens when I try it with a laserdisc player. So now that I have the chroma and luma cables hooked up to each monitor, I also have the S-Video ends into the laserdisc player. This laserdisc player happens to have 2 S-Videos out, so I can watch both monitors at the same time with the same image. Okay, so let's turn on each monitor. The one over here you have to do with the pencil because the button broke off. Now we're waiting for them to warm up. Now let me just go around and check the back. Both switches are set to rear. So now we can